You're listening to Ask Dr. Jake Tucker. I am Dr. Jake. I am coming to you live with another episode of Ask Dr. Jake on Max Living Radio. And we're coming to you live from our studios here at Good Life Family Chiropractic in South Lincoln with another message of hope, health, and wholeness. And I wanted to just share that message today with a story. Every week, I'm doing re-exams on patients as they're coming through the office, and I get to see the improvements in their spine, the improvements that makes in their health, how well they've implemented the 5 essentials. And I just had an experience yesterday that I had to share with you. This young man, about 26 years old, Will, he came into our office through one of our Facebook ads. And when we were talking yesterday, he'd done about 2 months worth of care following hurting his back. He's a mechanic. He regularly puts himself in positions that put strain on his back. And he noticed just a few months ago that his back had started to bother him, that he was starting to get some chest pain with it. And of course, I followed the obvious pathway, chest pain, low back pain. Yeah, maybe this is visceral. Maybe there's something in his organs, specifically his heart, that could be going wrong. But went down this pathway of testing to figure out what was wrong. And we actually found that he had very likely sustained a long time ago hairline fracture between the cartilage in his rib and his sternum, and it had started calcifying, and he's just putting a lot of stress on it through his daily living. And he had a problem with a disc in his low back at 26 years old. He had blown a disc. Now the disc blowout was not necessarily a disc hernia, but it was bulging. And that bulging disc had been created by the stressful postures that he'd put himself in every single day. He wasn't just a mechanic. Oftentimes he was dealing with these big semi-truck tires that were probably as heavy as he is. He's not a big guy. He's strong, but he's not a big guy. And he was regularly spending time hunched over these trucks and these tires and picking them up and lifting and twisting. And it just started to bother him. And so we went in and we took some x-rays, and we saw that L5 and that S1 disc segment was completely disrupted, that it was unstable, and that it was creating issues there. And so initially, 2 months ago, I sat down with him. We showed him what was going on and why it was causing the problem. And it just obvious to him, he had to get this taken care of. In spite of a lot of the debt that he had built up from unwise spending, he realized that if he didn't take care of this, he would fall like most Americans do. The average American, when they have back pain, it ends up costing them about 80 grand, $80,000 just to deal with a little bit of low back pain. And the problem is that we don't take care of it the right way. We go in and we look for something to make us feel better. And that ultimately leads us down the pathway to drugs, dangerous drugs. The opioid class of drugs claims more lives by itself than COVID's been attributed to by itself. In a year, it's the number 8 leading cause of death in the United States. And that's just for lives lost. That's not for lives being affected or the amount of people that are struggling with other drug addictions because of that opioid class. It's destroying lives in America. And then if that doesn't work for people and they maintain their sanity, they usually end up in surgery. I've got patients that ended up not taking care of their health properly and ended up with back surgery because they just wouldn't stop putting the stresses on their spine. And it's always a sad thing for me because once you get a surgery, we know that within 15 years, surgery has about 100% failure rate, whether it's getting the disc re-surgically done or the segment above or below start to fail because the cause of the problem was not addressed in the first place. And Will understood this. He made the decision to work at this. Now, he didn't work at it very well. But even his imperfect actions, showing up for his visits in our office, regularly scheduling them, and then when things came up, rescheduling those so that we were able to get the amount of visits in that we needed to in the time frame I had set out at the beginning, we were actually able to stabilize the disc, realign the vertebra around that disc so that now he hasn't had that pain in over a month. And he herniated a disc, and we didn't need any drugs or any surgery. And so we sat down yesterday and I asked him, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue to make this healthy so that this never becomes a problem again? Or do you just want to leave it and let it go? And he said, there's no way I'm leaving that. I put too much stress on my back. He said, what can I do at home to support this? And I said, here's all the exercises that I had laid out to you at the beginning. This is still what we need to do. Now we just need to make it more important that it's a habit, and you do that on a daily basis. And so if you're like Will, and whether you're young or old, and you've been putting your back under stresses and strains, whether it's playing video games in an abnormal posture, working at a computer, sitting down every single day, or if it's more like Will does on a daily basis, actually bending over and lifting and twisting and putting a constant or intermittent stress on your spine that's very forceful, then we need to assess your spine for health. The number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States is healthcare costs today. And if health insurance doesn't save anyone, 85% of those bankruptcies had health insurance to try to, quote unquote, help them with their healthcare costs. It's not designed to keep you healthy, unfortunately. So if you're looking for help, or if you're looking for true wellness, then we do that here at Good Life Family Chiropractic through the 5 essentials. And if you're one of the first 5 callers today, I'm going to be giving you a 50% discount off of that initial visit, exam, necessary imaging or x-rays, all that done on your first visit. If we keep you here to do your first treatment as well, that will also be a 50% discount. All of that would cost you no more than $95. $95 for everything if we do it all in one visit. If we just do an exam and x-rays, that would be $65. If we just do the exam, that would only be $25. So pick up the phone and call now, 531-289-7100. And let us know. We want to do that this week. And so that means the next 7 days, we have even some Saturday hours available, but you have to pick up the phone and call now, 531-289-7100. 7100. We're here to help. And oftentimes it just starts with transforming your mindset. Oftentimes we think that the healthcare system that we live in is actually providing us healthcare, but that's one of the biggest things we have to wrap our head around. Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Here's where you need to renew your mind. Our healthcare system, by definition, states any care that seeks to prevent disease, promote or enhance the quality or longevity of life is not considered medically necessary and therefore will not be covered. Let me say that again. Any care that seeks to prevent disease, promote or enhance the quality or longevity of life is not considered medically necessary and therefore will not be covered. That's the definition of medical necessity, the Medicare guidelines concerning that. And so that by definition means that our healthcare system is not a healthcare system. It's a sickness and disease system. It's for the treatment of symptoms, the treatment of disease. Well, here's the thing. Health is not a state of absence of symptoms. In fact, no definition of health in the world defines health that way. Health is a state of 100% optimal function and healing across mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual components. If you're ignoring any one of those, or any of those are functioning suboptimally, it compromises your health. It compromises the ability of your body to heal and to function, and it keeps you from living your life to your full potential. And that's what we want for you. The reason I named my office Good Life Family Chiropractic is because, number one, I believe that God has good for us, and that He has it for our life. Jesus said in John 10:10, I have come that you may have life and have it to the full. And that it's also about our families, because if our family's struggling around us, that's going to be the number one thing that pulls us away from our health goals. And so we create a culture of health here in our office. And actually we do that here at Good Life Family Chiropractic through making sure that you, the patient, are constantly renewing your mind. And so that's why we're on week 2 of our 6-week masterclass series on fearless immunity. Fearless immunity. If you're watching on Facebook Live or Facebook.com/Ask Dr. Jake, you can see this video posted of me recording this show. And I come in after the fact and we'll give you different links and stuff. If you want to join us for that class, it's not too late to get in. I just need to know that you're coming. So send me an email, drjake@goodlifefamilychiropractic.com, or you can text me at that same phone number I just gave you, that 531-289-7100. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I'm going to be doing a replay of week 1 for you guys to watch while I finish up my adjusting shift. And then at 10:30, I'm going to start week 2. And we're going to be talking about viruses and how the world's gone crazy about viruses and how we're completely missing the mark when it comes to health. How, these things like masks and isolation, they don't actually enable us to be healthy. They don't actually allow our immune system to learn how to fight this thing off, how it actually creates sickness and symptoms and disease ultimately. And so we're going to go through the things that actually build health, that build wellness, that build function and wholeness. And I'm going to be taking you through that from a virus perspective. How do these things work, and how do we go, and how little we truly know about this, but how badly we're getting it wrong from even what we do know and what's in the literature and what's in the research. And so you won't want to miss that. Last week's class was week 1. It was the introduction to what we're going to cover over the next 5 weeks. But you'll definitely want to catch that before you jump into week 2 and we dive a little bit deeper into viruses. So that's at 9 a.m. Send me a text or send me an email message, 531-289-7100 or Dr. Jake at goodlifefamilychiropractic.com. That's DRJAKE at goodlifefamilychiropractic.com. And if you're following this show and you love the topics that we're talking about, you love the testimonials, you love what you're hearing, please support us. We're not a nonprofit, but I actually do this show out of my own pocket to make sure that we're educating the people of Omaha and Lincoln and greater Lincoln, Omaha area so that we can actually start to transform our mindset together collectively as a church, as a body of believers, coming together, renewing our minds constantly on what God says about health and healing. And Scripture is all about this. It's about addressing the cause, removing the interference, and that's what we do in our office. We start with finding the cause. We start with God's laws of hope, of health, hope and wholeness, and making sure that our bodies have that full ability to heal. And so you can do that supporting the office by becoming a patient, traveling down to my office for that exam. You can also, free of charge, go to the iTunes store and leave us a 5-star rating and just say a few words about what you've learned on the show. For those of you that do that, I will read that on the air for you. We get 5-star reviews all the time, just patients coming through that are loving their experience here in our office. Will, he actually wanted to share his testimony about what was going on. Pam, last week, she shared about how we met her needs in a time of a mental crisis in a lot of ways, as she was able to say goodbye to her mother-in-law as she exited this world, and so many others as well. So leave us that 5-star review, and I will make sure to read that on air in recognition of your shout out, because that definitely helps to grow what we're doing here. And if you like this show, make sure to reach out to KCRO and let them know how much you like us. You can do that on their Facebook page as well. That's KCRO here in Omaha with the 106.7 FM here in Lincoln as well. And I hope you can join us every week. You can find the videos of these shows on Facebook, facebook.com/Ask Dr. Jake, or you can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on SoundCloud, Spotify. You just look for it and you'll find us. I've been Dr. Jake Tucker. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you again next week for another episode of Ask Dr. Jake.